I was lucky enough to experience Day of the Dead in Mexico, specifically in Oaxaca, which is one of the regions that's kind of known to be quite popular to go to for Day of the Dead. And there's so much I could tell you guys about it. I don't really know where to start, so this will probably be like a part one. So first, I want to tell you about this thing that I thought was a really nice aspect of it, which I kind of took part in and I didn't think I was going to. So basically, there are these things called ofrendas, which are like kind of like an altar offering kind of thing that people build in their house or business place around the time of Day of the Dead. And they build it by putting things like flowers and fruits and stuff like that, candles on like a shelf or a platform or a table or something like that. So they just, you know, go to the market and buy the flowers or whatever, and they can also decorate it with these like kind of hanging artistic decoration things which get sold on the street around the time of Day of the Dead as well. And well, one of the reasons for the existence of Day of the Dead is to basically remember and like celebrate your dead loved ones, so like your dead friends and family. And so yeah, basically I was staying in a house at the time with a local person who lived there and also another visitor, a girl from Switzerland. The guy I was staying with, he's not like a super traditional guy, so he wasn't necessarily going to build an ofrenda, but the girl from Switzerland, she really wanted to, so she actually just went to the market and bought the flowers and stuff like that, and she was like, don't worry, like I'm gonna build it. She just wanted to build it. So yeah, she built this ofrenda, which I'll show you the picture, and I thought it was so nice. And basically the point of these ofrendas is that you print out photos of your dead loved ones and put them somewhere like on the ofrenda, and then, you know, the ofrenda is kind of for them. So she printed out, I think it was 4 photos of her family members who had passed away, and she put them on the ofrenda. And yeah, she like spent some time like sitting by the ofrenda in the evenings when she had lit the candles and stuff, and you know, she said it was nice to like just think about those people, because yeah, obviously we think about our dead friends and family sometimes, but it's like in a lot of cultures, well, in my culture anyway, like where I'm from, you know, in England, we don't really have a specific time to do that other than at their funeral. So she said, of course, me and the man who we were staying with are of course also welcome to put photos on the ofrenda, like it's for everybody in the house. So basically there were 4 people who came to my mind who I wanted to put on the ofrenda, which would be my grandma, my granddad. They're both on my mum's side. When I was born, my grandparents on my dad's side were already dead, so I only ever had 2 grandparents, and my granddad died when I was maybe about like 10. My grandma died when I was maybe about 15 or something. So yeah, I wanted to put them on the ofrenda. I wanted to also put my godmother, who really suddenly got cancer and died when I was maybe, how old was I don't know, I want to say it was maybe around a similar time to when my granddad died. I'm not sure, I was quite young anyway, but I remember her being like a really sweet person. And I also wanted to put my friend who recently got killed in Trinidad. So yeah, that was going to be the 4 people, but basically this all happened kind of fast, like it all happened kind of at the last minute, like the building of the ofrenda and stuff, and so I didn't really have time to gather photos of all these people. Well, really, it was my godmother. I didn't have a photo of her, and I felt like I didn't want to put photos of the other 3 people but not her, and I could have got a photo, but I felt like it would have taken too long for the person to reply and send me the photo. So yeah, basically in the end I just decided to write all their names like nicely on different pieces of paper, and I drew a little picture next to each name of something that reminded me of that person. So for example, for my grandma, I drew a flower because my grandma really liked flowers. So yeah, and then I just put them on the ofrenda, which was still nice. And somebody told me, maybe it was my friend from Switzerland, I'm actually not sure who told me this, but somebody told me recently that they say that like nobody dies until their name is said for the last time, if that makes sense. So like if you keep talking about someone, then they kind of haven't fully died. Obviously they have, but you get what I'm saying. And so yeah, I just feel like it's really nice that they do this in Mexico, you know, to like properly think about your loved ones who have died like once a year. I think that's really nice, and I don't know, who knows, maybe I'll even build an ofrenda wherever I am next year. So yeah, this is just part 1 about Day of the Dead. I still have to tell you about the main stuff that happened on the streets and stuff. Okay, so here's part 2 of my reflections on my Day of the Dead experience in Oaxaca, Mexico. So I've told you guys about the ofrenda that we built in the house. I thought it was so nice. And one of the main things that visitors like to come and experience for Day of the Dead is the like street parades. So there are actually two types of street parades. One of them is kind of the official one that's run by the government, I believe, where they basically put up ropes. So you have to stand behind the ropes, and then there are these official like sections coming through. So there might be like 10 people dressed as skulls, and then there might be 10 people dressed as like witches, and then there might be 10 people dressed as mourning widows, and then there might be 20 people dressed as skeletons, you know, like passing by, and then you just stay there, you take pictures, whatever. And this is also accompanied by live bands. So in amongst these groups of like different costumes, there are bands that are, you know, walking along playing like trumpets and stuff like that. And it's like local music from Oaxaca, which is actually quite catchy. And yeah, so that's kind of readily available online, the timings and stuff like that, and lots and lots and lots of people go to watch that. So I went to that on the Friday because stuff happens for lots of days, not just one day. Mainly the Friday, Saturday and Sunday, but also more days. So on the Friday I went with the people I was staying with to watch the like official government parade thing, which was cool. The costumes were so creative and the music was really good, and like even though there were loads of people, no one was like really pushing, or you know, it was hard to find space, and especially everyone's trying to hold their hand up and take pictures and stuff. It was a mix of tourists and local people, and yeah, it felt like even though it was really busy, people were really trying their best to like make it not uncomfortable, you know. For example, there was this woman in front of me and my friend, and at one point she was like, oh, do you guys want to come and look here, you know. Everyone was kind of, yeah, it was like a really positive atmosphere, you know. It never felt like a problem that there were so many people, if that makes sense. And this parade was enormous. Like we stood in one spot for probably an hour, and it was just passing and passing and passing and passing, and even if you look down like this, you could see, as far as you can see, there's still more groups of people coming down. So it's like very impressive that the people would have taken so much time to, you know, put these costumes together and stuff. And yeah, it was like, wow. So that was the government parade. On the Friday, this happened around like maybe 8 p.m. or something. And also during this time, there were loads of extra like vendors and stalls set up around the center of the city. You know, some of them were selling food and drinks. Some of them were doing face painting, but not like kids face painting. Like it's a common thing for Day of the Dead that adults are dressing up and painting their faces and trying to look scary and stuff. So yeah, it was like mostly adult face painting. So that was the government parade. I still have more stuff to tell you about, so that will come in part 3. Part 3 of my experiences celebrating Day of the Dead in Oaxaca, Mexico. So I've told you guys about the ofrendas and about the kind of government parades. They also have these kind of like neighborhood parades, meaning that obviously the city is divided into different neighborhoods, and each neighborhood, or maybe not every single one, but some of the neighborhoods have their own Day of the Dead like parade, celebration, street party kind of things. So these are maybe a bit harder to find out about if you don't speak Spanish or you don't know anyone, because like the posters are just put up in the local areas and they're circulated on like WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups and stuff like that. So I only found out about these because I was staying with a local person. But the person I was staying with basically said he prefers these types of parades. He thinks they're a bit more fun than the government ones. So like I said, on the Friday, we went to watch a government parade. And on the Saturday and the Sunday, we went to 2 different local neighborhood parades. Basically for these, you can either dress up as something scary or you can just go in your normal clothes. It's for adults, children, tourists, local people, anyone. Well, I can only speak about the 2 that I went to, but basically the one on the Saturday, when we went there, it had like a stage that they built in the neighborhood, and it had a band with, you know, trumpets and different instruments like that playing local Oaxaca music on the stage. And basically people were just like dancing, buying snacks, drinks from vendors. People had like fireworks and different kind of sparking kind of things, like mini fireworks, I don't know. Some people had, you know, when like you light the bop thing and it makes a flame. People were just generally like having a good time, jumping up and down, shouting, laughing, singing, whatever. And then the one on the Saturday also had like a costume judging competition kind of thing. I think there was a prize for the best costumes. They went on the stage, and again, the costumes were amazing. Like some people had clearly put so much time and effort into their costumes. And yeah, then basically after a while it turned into like a moving parade, a moving procession, street party kind of thing, where the band with the trumpets and stuff would be walking along the street, and then the people, you know, the people in the costumes and also just the other people not in costumes would basically follow them, well, in front and behind them, and yeah, just like dance along the street, keep setting off the fireworks, the flames and all that stuff. a lot of drinking, and yeah, some people had come on stilts, and some people had even come on bouncy stilts. So there's like these stilts that they have, I don't know, springs or something in them, so these people on these bouncy stilts, they're like jumping up and down really high on these bouncy stilts. They were my favorite to watch. On both of the days, the parades went on for hours and hours, and then sometimes they would stop in like a little park or a basketball court or stuff like that, and then the band would get to stay still and play for a while, and then they would move on again. And some of the things I really loved about this, I mean, I definitely didn't stay the whole time. For me, like a few hours was enough because I got cold, I got tired, I got hungry, whatever, I'm such a granny. But I thought the atmosphere was just so positive, and I really loved how it was free, you know, which meant that it was accessible to everybody regardless of like their social class and stuff. It really didn't feel like it was for commercial gain, do you know what I mean? It really felt like it was just for the community. So I really loved that, and I loved that it felt so safe. Like there were children, I mean there were babies there, people were jumping up and down with their babies. There were children who were like 5 years old wandering off from their parents and jumping around and coming back, and you know, it felt so safe. And even like as a woman, sometimes being surrounded by lots of men who were like drinking and stuff in the dark, sometimes you worry about maybe somebody like grabbing you somewhere where you obviously don't want to be grabbed and stuff like that. But and obviously that's happened to me lots of times, you know, in various countries, especially at various events like what I just described, you know. But it didn't happen to me whatsoever. People were like careful not to kind of, you know, crash into you or do anything disrespectful. I literally felt like it was such a respectful and safe environment. Yeah, period. But especially compared to other similar events I've been to in terms of street party kind of vibes. So that was like so refreshing, because to me personally, when that happens to me, it can ruin my whole night, you know. So let me know if you have any questions. So another thing that happens at Day of the Dead is basically stuff at the cemeteries. So some people who have loved ones buried in the cemeteries, they go and they decorate their graves with like fresh flowers. Sometimes they might bring kind of offerings of a drink or things like that, candles, you know. And sometimes they might sit maybe with other family members as well. They might sit by the grave and like spend some time singing or just reflecting or praying or stuff like that. So sometimes people, like visitors, like to walk around the cemetery and see the decorated graves and stuff like that. So with the person I was staying with, who was a local person from Oaxaca whose grandparents were buried in the cemetery, and with a few more friends, we went to walk around the cemetery. So to be honest, I was actually expecting like I don't know why, it's probably stupid, but I was kind of expecting it to be full of flowers and like every grave to have all these flowers on it. But it wasn't actually like that. It was maybe just like, I don't know, half the graves or something that were decorated. But it was still really nice to see that. And again, like I was saying before, I think it's just a really nice thing to go and like reflect on your dead friends and family and stuff once a year, and you know, like show that you still care about them and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know, it just felt like nice to see it. And yeah, I saw a few families like gathering around, and there was one family where somebody was playing the guitar and they were singing, and some families, they were just like sitting in silence, just looking at the grave and the candles and stuff. And yeah, it was just nice. And you know, the people that had come to look around, I found that people were being respectful. Like people were just quietly walking around. People weren't really being like invasive, in my opinion. But that's not really for me to say, because maybe the people there find it invasive, I don't know. But yeah, there was actually also a concert in the cemetery. So there was this kind of bit in like the middle of the cemetery where there were no graves. It was just like a concrete kind of area, and basically there was a stage set up there with a band, again with like trumpets and those types of instruments, and they had also set out seats. So I'm not 100% sure of the like cultural significance behind the concert in the graveyard. Somebody said to me that it's like a way for people to kind of party with, not party, but you know, like party with their dead relatives, but I've not like verified that information. That concert, I think, also attracted tourists and visitors into the graveyard. Basically, I think I've now told you about the main stuff I experienced for Day of the Dead, but I feel like there's still way more I could tell you, so just ask me your questions.